Hi, photo students. I wanted to give you a quick demo on how I'm going to use the application Lightroom. It's called Adobe Lightroom. Now, I already have it downloaded here. You can see it right in the middle, but I'm going to show you on an iPhone at least, and this will be different obviously for an Android, some kind of Google device. You're going to want to go to an app downloading service for either any of the phones you're using. They all should have in some kind of application store the app Lightroom. So if you'll notice up here when I went to search, I searched Lightroom. This is a free app that Adobe provides that is a application that edits in a way that Lightroom does as a desktop app for a desktop computer, but it's also a really good camera app. So I'm going to open mine. This is Adobe's Lightroom application again. Now it takes you to a general screen here, but what I'm going to do is use the camera icon. So if you'll see down toward the bottom, right above where it says Discover, there's a little icon there that looks like a camera. I'm going to select that. And when I select that, it opens up my camera app. So I'm now, in a very funny way, I'm recording this on my computer screen. So you're seeing the screen within the screen within the screen. Now, I'm going to, well, don't worry about that. That's a little too confusing. I thought maybe I could select things and show you that way, but I'll show you in a different way. Now, don't be distracted by the image right now that's in front of you. I'm just going to show you the interface here. And for this first Amy Arbus assignment, your first short assignment, I'm only expecting you to use your phone for now. If you want to jump into using your DSLR camera, if you have one, feel free, but unfortunately, due to some of the constraints currently, I'm unable to get cameras to those in need until this next Friday, the 4th of September. So I'm kind of easing everybody in and giving them some options, and then you can choose whether or not you want to jumpstart by getting into your DSLR camera or not. But don't worry, it'll all pan out. There's only a slight delay there, and I've made adjustments to the course to make that work perfectly for everybody. So now, looking at this interface, I want you to notice at the top, there's a, below where it says the time and App Store, there's an X, and then next to it is what looks like a flash icon. If you select that flash icon, you can choose whether or not you want your camera to flash or not. I'm not going to do that currently. Next to that is something actually really important. It's right in the center of that top menu bar. It says DNG. I have that selected because I like to shoot in what's called RAW format, which is a really great thing that this app provides. I don't want you to worry about that right now, so I'm going to switch the format to JPEG, and I would ask you to just shoot in JPEG currently because I haven't shown you how to process RAW images yet, so don't worry about that. Now, make sure it's in JPEG. To the right there is that icon that many of us know where you can switch the camera that you're using on your phone to either the out-facing camera or the inward-facing, which is often cited as the selfie camera. I would use the outside for now. In general, most of your cameras are going to be of higher quality and higher resolution coming out of that outside camera. So let's just stick to that for now. Below that, you'll see those three dots. Notice that it gives you some options there. The ratio is the format or the length and width of your image. Stick to 4:3, that's fine for right now. If you want to experiment with that, you can. If I select it, it allows you to do 3:2, 16:9, and 1:1. 1:1 is going to give you more of a square, or it will give you a square. 16:9 is going to give you what would be, if I turned my phone, more of a letterbox. It's not going to let me do that with this recording, but that's going to give you that what would fit most of our HD screens at this point, but 4.3 is meant more for printing. Now, there's a timer option, so you can set a timer of 2, 5, and 10 seconds. You can have what would be a grid overlay on your screen in order to help you with framing. And you can also choose to have a level. So if you'll notice, it'll tell me when I'm level, when it's green, right? Both horizontal and vertical. So keep that in mind as options. You can do what's called show highlight clipping. That's going to get a little bit more advanced, so I wouldn't worry about that. I'm going to get rid of these grid views here. And then there's an option here of max screen brightness, geotagging, and save uncompressed original. If you want to play around with any of those, feel free. I'm not going to really sweat whether or not you know what those all mean at this point. They're a little more advanced. Now, I want you to go down to the bottom menu now and notice where it says EXP. That's called exposure, or that is exposure, and you can underexpose or overexpose your image by what are called up to 3 stops in either direction. We'll explain that more in depth in our later in week 2, so don't worry about that unless you want to experiment. You also have what it's called shutter speed. They're calling it seconds. If you want to keep that in auto, that's great, but if you want to experiment with this, you can also, and this is also going to be a form of lightening and darkening your image, and we'll learn more about that as we play more with our cameras. ISO, another thing that you can experiment with, which is going to be something we'll detail in terms of adding or subtracting what's called noise, but also giving more sensitivity to your sensor, your digital sensors, often in lower light situations. That's something you can experiment with. White balance, for now keep it in auto white balance, but if you experiment with some of those icons, you can notice that, say for instance, the sun right there is what's called daylight, and it's about color temperature and light temperature. So we'll explain more in depth as we progress through the course what white balance is all about and how every light source is measured as having a temperature. But we'll explain that. Stick to auto for now as to not overcomplicate things. The auto here is about your focal point. And then you can, if you play around with any of these, reset. Now, right next to what looks like the button, which is your shutter release button, or the button you operate to take a picture or push to take a picture, you'll notice that it says Pro. You can play around with what automatic results give you, what high dynamic range would give you, and you have more options of experimenting with exposure, white balance, and so forth. And professional. Mainly professional allows you to completely and manually operate all the settings, which is important. I'd like you to experiment with that as much as possible. Now, to the right of what would be the button you would push to take photographs, you'll see that there are some preset filter options you can experiment with. I don't really care if you play with these for now. If you want to experiment, that's fine. You'll notice that when I select each one, it gives you a little title of what they are. So for instance, this is a high contrast black and white filter. And then you'll notice next to there is a lock icon, and that will automatically lock your settings in place so you don't have to worry about accidentally selecting something and changing a setting without your knowledge. Again, if you're up at the top here, I just wanted to show you that flash now is activated. If I want it, I can have it on auto, so it will determine when the flash goes off, or I can have it permanently on, so I can force it to flash. Or again, I can turn it off, so it refuses to flash no matter what. Now, I'm going to take off that icon for locking, and I'm going to go ahead and post this video so you have knowledge of how to use this app. I think this is a really good substitute for now for getting into some of the settings and experimenting and having the ability to understand how you can operate and use all the same kind of controls and settings of your DSLR, but in a more portable phone option. And then this will kind of ease us in while some of us are still getting our cameras and so forth. So hope you have fun, and don't hesitate to ask questions.